All right, we've talked about a lot of bet basics, but let's talk about the most important bet basics: angles, edges, and strategies. What are they? Now, we don't want to split any semantic hairs, and it's not like these three words can often be used synonymously, but they do have certain distinctive connotations that are worth teasing out in order for us to think about things in different ways. Angles. If someone says an angle, what's an angle? It's just an angle, right? It's just a boop boop. It's a different way of looking at something. It's a perspective. You might say in any context, "Hey, what's your angle? I mean, what are you thinking about? Which way are you looking at the world?" That's all an angle is. It's a way of looking at the world. We all have different perspectives. We all have different angles. Some of it just from the way we look at things, the way we think about things, the way our brains work. But some of it is intentional. And we choose to look at things from just this perspective, right? And like any photographer setting up a good shot, the angle you choose matters. It leads to completely different outcomes. Okay, but an angle isn't money. An angle is just a perspective, just a way to look at something. You can implement an angle with a strategy. Fine, that's great. That means you're actually doing something. The strategy may or may not make money. If it makes money, if it leads to an edge, which is the golden chalice, that's the thing we're looking for. That's the holy grail. What do we want? And we want an edge. What does an advantage sports bettor want? An edge. An edge is a long-term expectation of profit. So those are those three different concepts, right? Remember what they are. An angle is how you look at something. It might lead to the thing we want most of all, which is an edge, and it sounds as sharp as an angle, but it's even sharper. And a strategy would be one way to implement that angle.
So what are some common betting angles? So we're going to talk about a number of them in this course. So just to follow up on what Philip said, what we want is we're always looking for an edge. An angle is kind of where our edge comes from. The strategy is how we actually go about achieving that edge, right? So there are many different ways to get an edge in sports betting. In this course on Foundations of Sports Betting, we're going to focus on three very common and very kind of easy to implement ones that you could come in with very little sports betting knowledge. By the end of this course, you'll be able to profitably bet on sports using the techniques of bonus hunting or promotion grind, or what's called promotion grinding, arbitrage, and middling. So what are these angles? The angles are, well, especially right now in the sports betting world, there's a lot of competition for your business. So a lot of sports books are giving away a lot of bonuses. They're giving away a lot of promotions to try to get you to bet at their sports book instead of at somebody else's. This money comes from marketing departments of casinos or marketing departments of sports books. It doesn't really matter where the money comes from. Bottom line is it's being offered to you, and any money that's being offered to you is money that you can take advantage of and use to build your bankroll. So that's one very easy way, especially if you're starting out with a small bankroll or a relatively limited bankroll, to grow your bankroll, and to grow your bankroll at the expense of the marketing departments at sports books. And so that's something you should definitely take advantage of. Is it something that's scalable over a long period of time? Well, that's something that's to be determined, but it is definitely an angle, and it's definitely a way to profit. And there are definitely better ways to do it, smarter ways to do it, and there are less smart ways to do it. And so we'll talk about what are some of those nuances and how do we get the most out of those bonuses. Arbitrage is risk-free profit. This is something where we're able to actually see opportunities that exist in the market where we can place bets, maybe at 2 or 3 or 4 different books, usually just 2 books, where we can place bets in a way where we can't lose, we can only win. That's a great way to build our bankroll risk-free. This is something that very high-level professional bettors continue to do very successfully for very large amounts of money, even to this day. And so it's definitely something that as maybe starting bettors, that is really good because it allows us to learn the landscape, get a feel for what's going on, maybe develop strategies on the side that are more sophisticated and do it while building our bankroll in a risk-free way. A little bit more advanced technique, and one that we'll be able to get to by the end of this course. It does require a little bit more analytical skill, but it's definitely one that you'll be able to effectively use by the end of this course. Is called middling. Middling is where we are taking a little bit of risk, but for a potentially very large return. So it's a situation where maybe in a spread or a total, we see at one book offering plus 10, the other book is offering plus minus 7. So there's a 3-point discrepancy. If we can bet the plus 10 at one book and the minus 7 at the other book, in a lot of cases, we're going to lose one bet, win the other, and we're going to pretty much break even or lose a small amount of money. But there are some situations when the outcome falls between 10 and 7 that we'll actually win both bets. So we'll get paid, maybe something like 20 to 1 on our bet, 10, 20 to 1, depending on how on other factors, the odds that were being offered, and so on and so forth. So those are 3 very good angles, very solid angles that we'll be able to implement by the end of this course. As you continue to develop in your sports betting practice and developing your approach, you may come up with a lot of other different ways, a lot of different more sophisticated angles, ones that we've talked about in our other courses on applied analytics and sports betting, some involving statistical modeling, some involving proprietary access to information, proprietary data sets, some involving execution speed or technological advances that nobody else in the industry has.